Of course, you have already told me what objectives mean. So, what are the types of objectives? So, you have some general objectives, then you have your course objectives, and you have the specific learning or instructional objective. See, when it comes to the, what is the basic difference between the two? All these three. The general objectives are specific, at the same time they imbibe certain wider areas. When it comes to the course objectives, it becomes still narrower. It comes to the SLO, it becomes a very specific task. So, before each session we should have an SLO or several SLOs. So, let us see why objectives should be specified. Please go through this paragraph. Does it make any sense? Does it make any huh? Of course, you can make out the meaning of the word.
Separate bullets and then do some kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So that means that it makes sense, but it doesn't tell you what exact. There is no link. Yeah. Let me link it. Now you read it once again. Does the link is provided? Yeah, so that you know what it is. So that is why you should have an objective. See, that title has provided the objective, how to make and fly a kite, and the paragraph tells you how to do it. That is all. When I gave you the same paragraph, you yourself read it, you said it didn't make sense. But now does it make sense? So that is the reason why we have to specify the objectives which specify the predetermined goals, and the learning process can be properly directed, the learning process can be properly planned, and the evaluation process can be decided to ensure the quality of the output. That is the reason why before starting any program, we have to first specify the objectives. So, what are the objectives of this session? I am supposed to tell you, isn't it? Huh? Yes. So, the learners should be, for the time being you are all learners, learners should be able to frame an educational objective relating to any of the topics that have already been covered. Then enumerate the qualities of an objective, list the components of an objective, identify the correct domain in a predetermined objective, frame SLOs belonging to different objectives. So, my objectives are very simple, just 5 specific some objectives I have. So, here is a simple exercise. The Hippocratic tradition was focused on healing rather than curing. Can you frame an objective based on this concept? Then do so. Huh? No, when you frame the objectives, you have to state in such a way that what the learner should be able to do. Say you are telling your learner that Hippocratic tradition was focused on healing rather than curing. So, from that concept, what you expect your learner to imbibe, that is what. See, if I say I will supply that third objective, differentiate between healing and cure. So, then it is a simple sentence, but you have been able to frame 3 different objectives from that. So, that is how we go about doing it. So, what are the qualities of the objective? I think all of you are familiar with this Rumba. See, the objective should be relevant to the learner. See, when you state an objective, the learner should feel that there is some relevance in this objective, so that I am getting something out of it. Then it should be unequivocal. That means that there should not be any doubt in the mind of the learner as to what he or she should be able to do at the end of the session, and it should be measurable. You should be able to see, or somebody else should be able to see how the objectives have been achieved. So, the objective should be achieved, and we should be able to measure the behavioral change that has occurred in the learner. So, that is why we these are considered as the qualities of an objective. Is it clear what I meant by the qualities of an objective? So, there is an exercise for each group, but unfortunately, does any of you have any of your course objectives in, or do you remember any of these things? Because we plan to have 8 people in a group. You may be in 2 different rows, but even if you cannot do it, no, if you have a, this is our module, no? You just please give me that. See, madam has given an objective, aware of the utility of the distance education module for teaching and learning. At the end of the program, the learner should be aware of the utility of a distance education module for teaching and learning. Can you apply the Rumba to this objective? So, is it relevant, that objective? It very relevant, isn't it? Then, is it unequivocally stated? It's clear, you know what. Then, how will you observe? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? So all the qualities of the objective are satisfied. So that is how you frame the objectives. Next we go on to the taxonomy of educational objectives. What do you mean by taxonomy? Classification, the same. Similarly, you have the 3 domains which have been described by Bloom: cognitive, psychomotor and affective. Of course, they are self-explanatory. Cognitive pertains to knowledge, psychomotor pertains to action, and affective pertains to the heart. Now, what is the significance of this picture? They are overlapping. You cannot have an objective which is specifically in a single domain. Most of the objectives have overlapping domains. So, cognitive domain is mainly concerned with the acquisition of knowledge. So, there are different levels of cognition, and I found that most of you are familiar with the different levels, and you can see that this is the picture which shows how the level goes up as you ascend up. From simple knowledge recall, you go up to the stage of evaluation. And what do you think is the level to be achieved in the learning of bioethics? Is it enough you have knowledge, comprehension, application? Enough? Shall I stop? No, the higher levels are a must in this particular field. So, these are the acquisition of physical abilities, motor or muscular. Do they have a role in the learning of bioethics or the training of? They have? The train, yeah. Where the program. So, this manipulation of materials and objects in clinical research and all, you are manipulating the, yeah. So, you have to have a lot of the psychomotor domain is important in refining of the skills. Here again you have the different stages where you observe, you imitate, you practice under guidance, you simulate, and then finally you have your well refined skill. Then coming to the affective domain, which is the description of tasks concerning the changes of interest and attitudes, development of values, adjustment to situations, communication skills, interpersonal, and this is, I feel, the domain of utmost importance in the learning of bioethics. Unless you have a properly developed affective domain, you cannot be trainers in bioethics. So, what are the different stages? First, you become aware of an I. That is what you are getting now. In your classes, you are getting and we are becoming aware of the principles, the theories, the practice of bioethics, then you are responding to those ideas now, then it becomes internalized or it becomes a behavioral characteristic. So, you know that there is an intermingling of the domains in the objectives. So, what do we see in this picture? Now, you had a previous exposure, now tell me. What do you perceive? So that means it is against.
He's enjoying the scene.
Yeah, he's enjoying the scene. That's what you feel, no? No. Then what is it? Has he pushed them in there? It's again a drawing only. He is enjoying his drawing, whereas he has made a well and two fellows are inside. So he has done it so well that you said that he is enjoying it. No, he is enjoying the way you are perceiving his drawing. That is all. So now, just give me some ideas regarding the domains involved in the following situations. Which are the domains involved in counseling? Only affective? See, all the three. See, when you have to have a solid cognitive domain behind you if you want to counsel, isn't it? Yeah. Then what about granting consent for a research program? Again all three. But is there any difference between the levels? Any difference? Or which domain is contributing more? See, between counseling and granting a consent, which domain is, as you said, in counseling it is mainly affective, whereas in granting consent for a research problem, cognitive and very high level of cognition. You have to evaluate the program and then only give your consent, and you yourself should be well versed in the techniques involved in the research. At least there should be one person who knows how the technique is going to be carried out. Then what about organizing a training program? That's what you are all going to do. Where is the why did you all say when it is training it is psychomotor? It starts with cognition, but why? I know why you all said that psychomotor. Because you have to do a lot of running around. That is the reason why you are saying psychomotor. When you organize a training program, you have to have a lot of muscular activity. You will end up the day with aching legs and all. So these are the three H's. The harmonious development of the head, heart and the hand is the mark of effective learning. So now we go on to the final part of the session, that is the specific which defines the specific tasks or skills to be achieved by a learner. So it is based on the course objectives. See, this is where the course objectives come in. See, when you are planning a training program based on certain needs, they form the general objectives that need. Then you frame the course objectives and each session is planned on specific objectives. And for each session, each trainer will have his or her own specific learning objectives. That is why in the beginning I said the objectives for this session. My specific learning objectives I have already stated in the beginning. So it is a specific learning objective should have, or it should be relevant, unequivocally stated, measurable, behavioral, and it should be achievable. So each SLO or specific learning objective should have an action, what the learner should do, should be able to do, what is the content, there should be conditions and criteria. So this condition and criteria usually they go together, or sometimes they will be specifically stated. When we come to different objectives, you will understand that clearly. So it should be relevant to the needs of the learner and unequivocal. That means it should be clearly stated. So we will take up the topic of informed consent, which is more or less familiar to all. So the learner should know how to obtain an informed consent from patients' relatives. Is it correctly stated or not? What is wrong with it?
The patient's relatives. The informed consent should be obtained from the patient, not the relatives.
So it is, that theoretically it is wrong. Then anything else wrong with it?
Action and the content is wrong.
No is not an action. The learner is, that is why it is not correctly stated. So if you have to have an action verb. Draft, define, explain. These are the action verbs. So identify the different components in the SIOs being given, identify the domain involved. The learner should be able to define informed consent. Is there any ambiguity with it? It is clearly defined, unequivocally stated. The learner should be able to define informed consent. Then draft an informed consent. Should it be, is it again relevant? Translate it to vernacular. Translate it back to English. What is the reason?
To make sure that the original
Yeah.
tallies with the back translation.
Type and get a printout. So which are the domains involved in this? This is rather a low level of cognition. Draft an informed consent. But again, it's a higher level of cognition. Then translate it to vernacular. Again, cognitive. Translate it back to English. Is there any difference in the level involved there? Yeah. Yeah, that is it. Yeah. And